Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Woodlands Community Centre. Normally it would be Councillor Parker-Jones chairing this committee. Unfortunately, she is unwell. There'll be the chance to elect a chair in a minute for tonight's meeting, should anybody want to do that. Some housekeeping just before we kick into the meeting properly, though. We're not expecting the fire alarm to sound this evening, but if it does, please leave the building through the fire exits and meet outside at the fire assembly point. And councillors will be using tablet devices to access the agenda for the meeting whilst we're out there. Officers will direct you in the right way if you're not sure where the exits are. The clue, I think, is the one behind you. We always welcome people to speak at this meeting, although this is a formal meeting of Eastleigh Borough Council and not a public meeting. The difference is this is a meeting in public, not a public meeting. The members of the public that have registered to speak will be invited to speak at the relevant agenda item and will be given a total of 3 minutes to speak. When the light is amber, they have 30 seconds remaining. People wishing to speak on an item on the agenda are able to do so before the debate starts. Once the debate has started, however, it is not possible to invite or receive comments from the floor. We want to be as inclusive as possible, but we will not tolerate any disruptions to our meeting. Should there be any disruption, we do have the power under the Council's constitution to remove people from the meeting or continue in private, neither of which we take lightly, and we really don't want to do that. Councillors are reminded that to take part in this meeting, you must have an open mind, so that you can take all the relevant considerations presented to the meeting into account in reaching your decision. By attending today, you have decided that you will listen to all points of view expressed by the speakers and public and are able to participate and cannot be seen to have predetermined the application. This meeting is going to be recorded and will be uploaded to the Council's website. If any members of the public prefer not to be recorded, then do please contact one of the members of staff here. If you're planning on filming or recording the meeting, then please do let us know so that we can ensure that you are not filming members of the public who do not wish to be filmed. The Chair reserves the right to ask any filming considered intrusive to be stopped. More information is available on the Council's website. Okay, so the first thing to do is to elect a chair for this meeting tonight in Councillor Parker-Jones' absence. Would somebody like to propose a chair? Councillor Marsh? Thank you, Michelle. Would somebody like to second that? Thank you, Steve. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. In that case, we're now moving on to apologies. We have one apology tonight, which is quite obvious, which is Councillor Parker-Jones, who is unwell, hence me stepping in her absence. And therefore, there can be no other apologies. No. Okay, next thing we've got is public participation. So if anybody would like to speak on an item not on the agenda, this is your opportunity to do so. Okay, in that case, we'll address that. We'll revisit public participation when we get to the relevant agenda items. The next item is declarations of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest they wish to make? If so, please indicate now. When called, please state the nature and reason for the interest. You can, of course, declare any interest as they occur to you in the meeting. I actually have an interest to declare. The item on the Memorial Hall demolition, I am a member of Bishopstoke Parish Council. I don't believe this is an interest that would mean that that I need to exclude myself from the debate. Does anybody else have any interests to declare? Great. Okay, so we now move on to the minutes. The minutes of the meeting held on the 27th of September. And I'd like to be able to approve these as a true record. Would somebody like to propose the minutes? Thank you, Councillor Broomfield. And seconding, Councillor Couldrey, your hand was up, so can I take you as seconding? Wonderful, thank you. All those in favour of adopting as a true record? All those against? All those abstaining? Michelle, thank you. That's one abstention. Okay, the next item is Chair's announcements. So if I get the relevant bit up. Just bear with me a sec. Right, Chair's announcements. Remembrance events took place this year at Fair Oak Square and St Mary's on Remembrance Sunday. and at a temporary site on Bishopstoke Close Graveyard on Armistice Day, where Councillor Parker-Jones laid a wreath on behalf of Heath Borough Council. Councillor Cllr Kaws attended the service at St Mary's. Councillor Nick Couldrey and I both attended the remembrance service at the bandstand in Eastleigh. There are various festive fairs taking place across our wards, including at Fair Oak Junior School on Friday between 6 and 8, Fair Oak Scout Hut this Saturday 10 till 1, and it's also really good to see that Fair Oak Library, a project that this LAC contributed towards, is holding a Christmas magic show and story session for 4 to 8-year-olds on Wednesday the 20th of December. This is in addition to their weekly activities for children. It's fantastic to see the library in operation. I've also been asked to mention that Bishopstoke Players' pantomime this season is Dick Whittington and will be at their current home of Durley Memorial Hall between the 25th and 27th of January. Please check the relevant websites and social media for more details about the events I've mentioned. It's now possible to follow a cycle route from the River Inn in Bishopstoke all the way through to the cottages on Chestnut Avenue and onto Parkway Station following the Hampshire County Council extension from Eastleigh Station. It's proving very useful to commuters and students, particularly considering the number of young people who attend college, either at Eastleigh College or Barton Peveril. It's great to see that that's been made a little bit safer, a little bit easier. At Monday's council meeting, I asked about the status of the asset transfer of the allotments at Bowlake Gardens in Bishopstoke, and the response I received from the Cabinet member with responsibility for planning will be covered by our local area manager in her finance report later in this agenda. Councillor Lou Parker-Jones took the council's 2 new directors this month to see the problems we are having with the lack of asset transfers at Sewell Drive and Bowlake Gardens, the problem with the missing permissive path at Bishopstoke Park, and the site of the proposed sang at Stoke Park Farm. Very useful session. Monday's council meeting was also informed by the council leader that there are plans to increase the number of dwellings to be built on the One Horton Heath development, going up from 2,500 by an additional 350 to 2,850. He also indicated that the number has the potential to go up further to 3,000. It would be good to learn more about the process and consultation related to this proposed increase. Finally, I'm sure that many of us are interested in the future of Stoke Park Farm, and I believe that the anticipated SANG proposal will be on the agenda for January's LAC meeting, but that won't be confirmed until closer to the time. And I'm sure that you will all join me in hoping that our chair, Luke Parker-Jones, will be able to chair that meeting, as I'm sure we all wish her a speedy recovery. Okay, thank you. Right, on to the financial management report. Kitty.
Thank you, Chair. I am just going to move myself over. There we go. So the financial report before members tonight has 2 recommendations. The first recommendation is that the committee notes the expenditure of £910 towards bin infrastructure in the local area. That money has already been spent, so it is just for the committee to note. And the second recommendation is that the committee notes the current status of the asset transfers at Bowlake Gardens and Sewell Drive, or Sewell Drive, depending on who you speak to, in Bishopstoke. In terms of updates to the second item, as members are aware, at full council on Monday evening, there was an additional update provided. As of last week, I received a response from the technical director at Vistry, who are the developers for the site, to confirm that they had accepted an order from a contractor to carry out the works to the allotment building following the vandalism, and they were currently awaiting a date from the contractor for those works to commence. So that's a small step forward, but it is nonetheless a step forward. The other update related to the letters that we as a council are sending to contractors who are not engaging with sites. The letter is due to be sent by the end of this week, and it will give them 21 days in which to respond and start to take action and engage with us. Otherwise, our legal officers will be asked to investigate what formal enforcement action we can take. Thank you.
Thank you, Kitty. Does anybody have any questions for our local manager? Councillor Broomfield.
Thank you. My usual pet subject, which is bin infrastructure. At £455 a bin, judging by the cost of the two in Rose Close, Bishopstoke and Hamilton Road, Bishopstoke, I've had a couple replaced in the past few weeks where old...
Oh, sorry. Sorry, my fault. No, not at all.
Thank you. I've had a couple replaced in Fair Oak, so we must presumably have a finite amount in that store. Is it, I don't need to know at this precise moment, but is it possible for us to have a sort of an updated figure, just so when I start offering bins to people, I know how much we've got left? Thank you.
In that case, can I have a proposer, please, for the finance report? Proposed by Councillor Marsh, seconded by Cllr Broomfield. Any debate? Councillor Couldrey.
I would like to say that I agree with Bishopstoke councillors who are saying that the asset transfer hasn't been done satisfactorily. And I'm delighted to hear that more staff effectively have been engaged to get this done, because it is simply a matter of resources. And hopefully something will actually happen.
Any more debate? In that case, all those in favour, please. Okay, unanimous. Right, in that case, we now move to the next item, which is a presentation on planning guidelines. So if I can hand over to Gary, who's going to take us through that, I believe.
Thank you, Chair. Evening, members. Quick. If I can get the thingy to work. No, it doesn't want to work. There we go. Quick update on planning guidelines, so just a reminder as to what issues you can and can't take into consideration for this evening's planning items. So proposals must be considered on planning grounds and they must be determined in line with the adopted development plan unless there are material considerations which indicate otherwise. The adopted plan is the Eastleigh Borough Local Plan 2016 to 2036 and the Hampshire Minerals and Waste Plan, which won't be relevant for any of this evening's items. In terms of relevant considerations then, in addition to the plan, there's any adopted supplementary planning documents, such as quality places or parking standards, etc., or government policy, including the National Planning Policy Framework, which has a presumption in favour of sustainable development. And the latest version of that was published earlier this year in 2023. And is a significant material consideration and can take precedent over the development plan where the plan doesn't align with the NPPF, which isn't really the case as our plan is relatively recently adopted. So the NPPF has a number of key requirements, essentially to deliver sustainable development without delay, meeting housing targets, boosting the economy, requires a high standard of design, and ensuring that any impact from development is mitigated in an appropriate manner. So this has a presumption in favour of sustainable development, which is classified as having three threads: economic, social and environmental. And these are interdependent, so therefore they must all be, development must meet all three of those threads in order to be considered sustainable development in planning terms. Other relevant material considerations may well be planning history or previous applications related to that site, any appeal decisions or site-specific policies, or any site-specific matters such as highways, trees, amenity, infrastructure, etc. Any consultee and third-party comments or precedents such as case law that may well provide guidance, and the need to ensure that we meet our 5-year housing supply. Any non-related issues, any views, moral, racial or religious views, the devaluation or otherwise of land or property, any loss of a private view or breach of covenants, or matters covered by other legislation such as building regulations, alcohol licensing, etc. Any personal views about an applicant or their motives for undertaking the proposals, or any civil matters such as boundary disputes? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Gary. So that brings us to the first of the two planning applications we are considering tonight, which is for Bishopstoke Memorial Hall, Riverside, SO50 6LQ. And I'm going to ask, so if I get the right line here, I'm going to ask Rachel if she would mind presenting on this subject for us.
Good evening. So yeah, this is agenda item 9, as said, for Bishopstoke Memorial Hall, which is to demolish the hall, along with the parish office and storage shed alongside it. So this is the site location plan. You can see with the site outlined in red. It's adjacent to a recreational ground. And I've just put a few arrows to show which is the hall, the office and the shed. So hopefully that's clear there. There's some site pictures here just showing, number 1 is showing the view of the hall from the street. 2, you can see the hall as well as the parish office next to it with the shed out of view behind. And then 3, you can see stood from the hall looking across the road to the river, and 4 shows it in its setting with the Anglers Inn public house adjacent. So it's recognised that this memorial hall is not architecturally important to the conservation area, and so its demolition will not detract from the character of the area. This is supported in the Bishopstoke Conservation Area Appraisal and Management Proposals Supplementary Planning Document, where under paragraph 6.3.3 that states that the building itself is not a robust construction, does not enhance the prominent site within the conservation area. So while the loss of a community asset with no replacement set is not an ideal situation, there is a commitment from the parish council to replace the building with an enhanced facility in the future. Nonetheless, we would expect that scheme to enhance the special features in the conservation area. Also worthy of note is that the building is permanently closed on safety grounds and therefore hasn't been available to the community to use for several years. Therefore, tonight the recommendation is subject to completion of the habitat regulation assessment, that being sent to Natural England, having a response from them on that, and getting a construction, demolition, environmental management plan agreed with our consultees. Then we would delegate back to the Service Director for Planning and Environment in conjunction with the Chair, the Vice Chair, to grant conservation area consent with conditions in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I don't have anybody registered to speak on this item, but would any members of the public like to speak at all? Thank you. In that case, can I have... In that case, I'm going to open this up now to councillors for any questions before we move on to debate. Any questions? Councillor Kaws.
Hi, yes, I have a question. Hopefully you can answer it. As a fan of hedges, I just noticed that in representations received, number 8, question why the hedgerow is to be removed. Can you answer that?
Yes, the hedge line is to be removed because of it's needed to not be there basically for the demolition. It's better to remove it during the season when the demolition itself is meant to take place, so outside of the bird nesting season. And it's really easier to maintain the site as a whole with that hedgerow removed going forward. I think there's been a bit of history of vandalism and things on the site, so it'd be easier to just encompass that site with that hedgerow removed, I believe.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions for Rachel? Okay, in that case, oh, sorry, Nick.
I think it's a very good question that's been raised, and I'm not sure I understood the answer. But obviously, sometimes hedgerows do have to go to create these things. Is there any condition that a new hedgerow is put in place as part of the final arrangements? Or can we impose a condition that that is the case? Or do we just bear it in mind?
No, there isn't a condition to that nature at the moment, but it's potential that that could prejudice any future development that went on the site if we were to require that now.
I wasn't trying to be very specific, but when you do development, normally you have to have environmental enhancements, don't you? But with this going now, do you measure the environmental enhancements from the site as demolished or the site now?
So at the moment, we would consider it as you would consider it as when it is from when you take the application. I believe there is a condition that requires to follow a ecological appraisal report that was submitted. That does include a few enhancements. They're not. I don't think there's anything substantial, but arguably, I think they are an enhancement. I can have a look now if you'd like that detailed. If that's helpful.
I'm really just after the final product that at some point we get an improvement here. And I'm sure my fellow councillors have exactly the same sentiment. I'm not very much concerned about which way we do it.
Kitty, you had some helpful responses, hopefully, for that.
Thank you. I'm aware of the project because of the conversations that I've been having with our project team who are supporting the demolition. So at the moment, the hedgerow it obstructs the demolition of the building. So it needs to be removed in order for the hoarding to be put up and for the building to be demolished safely. There is an expectation that any further development on the site would enhance the ecological value of the site. So there is an expectation that we would see trees, potentially hedgerow, installed at a later date. That would come forward either as part of the application within the red line of this site or as part of the improvements to Glebe Meadow, which is the adjacent recreation ground. So there is an expectation from the council that the ecological value of the site will be enhanced. Sorry? Yes. Yeah.
Can I ask a question, please? Is it possible for us as a committee to note our desire that the final new memorial hall should demonstrate net biodiversity gain? Can we do that? Would that be an acceptable way forward for that?
Our policy would require an biodiversity net gain, both in law, probably by that point, and also our policy DM11 requires a net gain. So by the time that comes in, we would require a net gain.
But that would be net gain based on a demolished site building a building. What we're looking at here is clearing a site, including the hedgerow. At what point do you measure net gain? From the point of demolition or the point of building? Do you see what I mean? Because it's separate applications.
Yes, I do. I think you'd take it from demolition because that's when the application came in. However, assuming that this will come in the new year, in when the law will be a requirement for 10% biodiversity net gain, I think it's likely that that hedgerow would be well compensated in that 10%, but I couldn't guarantee that.
I think it's just a question of just deciding when it's compared against.
I think I can see what you're getting at, and I agree entirely. I think rather than asking for the committee to note that there needs to be a net gain, I think you're better to say, because Rachel's right, it will be a requirement anyway. I think you're better to say, note that you want the net gain as of today.
Yes.
rather than as of whenever any future planning application comes in the next 6 months or whenever it does. And that will need to be taken into account then as part of any new application. So it may well be greater than the standard 10%. It may well have to be, it'll be based on whatever 10% is as of today. We can't apply it to conditions or anything on this application because this relates purely to demolition. And the only conditions you can apply relate to safety, basically, and amenity. But I think it certainly can be added in, and as officers, we'll make sure that's taken on board.
Can that be noted, please? Thank you. Okay, any more questions? Okay, in that case, can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Marsh, seconded. Councillor Broomfield. Debate. Councillor Broomfield.
Thank you. Just a quick one. Page 19, paragraph 16, Hampshire Archaeology have no objection, and neither do I, so that's okay. The second paragraph comments on the fact it was erected as a part of Bishopstoke's memorial to those who fell during the Great War. Obviously, there is a small memorial in St Mary's Church. There's also one in Bishopstoke Men's Club, I think, although I've never seen it. It does cross my mind that war memorials, even in distress, deserve to be recorded. So I wonder if it is possible, I don't know what other members think, that the parish council, who are the owners of the site, should create a formal photographic record of the memorial hall in its distressed state now, partly as a record and partly because the Imperial War Museum, for example, mentions Bishopstoke Memorial Hall on its website. So I think it would be useful just to explain to future generations why this memorial disappeared, rather than just that it did disappear.
Thank you. I'd also like to add to that, if at all possible. There are 2 requests which I know have come through from local residents. The first being from the granddaughter of the blacksmith who made the rather impressive gates to the Memorial Hall, to make sure those gates are stored carefully. She's actually volunteered to help out with that, and that so that they can then be used with the new hall. I think that's a lovely thing to do. The second request that came through, and I believe the Bishopstoke clerk does have the details, is that one of the floorboards be retained from the current hall. This is for somebody whose father was involved with running a dance school from the site, and she wants to turn it into some kind of memorial, a commemorative item for her father, which is a lovely idea. So I really hope that the parish council will take those 2 things on board. Second thing to note, as part of the whole process, is the war memorial is being relocated. Love the idea of taking photographs of where it is, but it does have a fabulous new home to move to, hopefully, in the not too distant future, which will be in the within the Bishopstoke closed graveyard. That's the current intention. And I think that's going to be a really nice spot for it. As far as the demolition of the Memorial Hall goes, it's incredibly sad in a way because it's been part of Bishopstoke for so long. The money was raised by public subscription for it, and it's been part of the village's life for a long time. And yes, the parish council did look into whether or not it could be renovated, whether or not it could be repaired, but it just wasn't possible. It really has outlived its life. It was never built. The way in which it was constructed was never designed to be a permanent structure. The fact it's done as well as it has done for so many years is pretty impressive. But very sadly, I think it's time for it to go now. Major problems with asbestos, major problems with the roof. It's not possible to renovate it. And I think this is an important stage 1 of giving Bishopstoke the memorial hall it deserves. Any more debate? No? In that case, we can move to the vote. All those in favour, please. That's unanimous. That's unanimous, thank you. Okay. Right. So that takes us to item number 10 on the agenda. Planning application for 5 to 7 Allington Lane, Ferrick, Eastleigh, SO507DA, F23 95753. So if I can ask Rachel if you could present the report, please, on this application.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, moving on to agenda item 10. This is for the erection of one 3-bedroom bungalow with associated parking following the demolition of existing garages and severing of the land. So this is the site location outlined in red. You can see 5 and 7 Allington Lane at the front, to the west, and the garages in the rear garden. So this would be the proposed plan, again with 5 and 7 Allington Lane still there with their parking, and the proposed bungalow to the rear also with parking. These are the proposed elevations and floor plans. You can see that the design with the hip roof, some small gable end wings to the front elevation. This respects the existing dwellings at number 5 and 7, which have hipped and gable end designs. Moreover, the proposed dwelling would respect the existing character by using similar traditional materials such as red brick and tile hanging for the exterior, as well as clay roof tiles and UPVC for the windows and doors. It's considered that this dwelling would take full account of the character and appearance of the locality. So these are some site pictures. Number 1 is stood at Allington Lane, looking up to the 2 properties. Number 2 is going into number 5's garden, with 3 going a bit further down to where the proposed bungalow would sit, and 4 is now on number 7's side, with that fence down the middle. So 5 and 6 are also in number 7's, again showing where the bungalow would be. Number 7 is from number 7's garden, and you can see Roke Way adjacent, and that blue door, if you can't see my cursor, hang on. This blue door is the Southern Water pump house, which is already there. And then number 8, you can see stood on the driveways of 5 and 7, looking down to both of their gardens with that fence split down the middle. Number 9 shows the aerial view, and that red circle kind of shows the approx location that the bungalow would be, where there are garages at the moment. Number 10, again from the driveway of 5 to 7, looking down back to Allington Lane, and then 11 and 12 show either direction of Allington Lane. So the next slide will be an illustration, this slide, of how it looks at the moment with 5 and 7, the shared drive with the 2 cars there for each dwelling. So then the next slide will be kind of a feel for how it would potentially look with this proposal in place. So you can see the driveways opened up with the 2 parkings areas for both the dwellings at the front, 5 and 7, and then you can see it leads down to the new dwelling at the back, and then that central car is trying to illustrate that the cars can egress in forward gear onto Allington Lane. So the proposed dwelling would accord with the immediate character along that stretch of Allington Lane, where there are a cluster of properties that are all bungalows aligning north to south. From the submitted plans, when assessing the rear garden, the proposed outdoor private amenity space is equivalent to 250% of the internal floor area, and the neighbouring properties at 5 and 7 still also maintain an appropriate amenity area of about 109 at number 5 and 110 at number 7, which is over the 60% in our Quality Places SVD. The fact that they're single-storey bungalows reduces potential for unacceptable overlooking, and there has been a condition put on that restricts permitted development rights for the roofscape of the proposed bungalow, which includes classes AA, which would be for enlargement of the dwelling house by construction of additional stories, B, which is additions to the roof of the dwelling house, and C, other alterations to the roof of a dwelling house. The existing access is wide enough to facilitate appropriate forward gear access and egress. It's not anticipated that one additional dwelling would create high volumes of additional traffic, and it's considered that the additional dwelling would not cause a highway safety concern, and Hampshire Highways have given a no objection to that proposed access. So also the parking standards are accorded with. For a 2-bedroom property, we'd expect 2 parking spaces, which has been provided for all the properties, and the proposed dwelling also has a visitor space. And also a preliminary ecological appraisal report has been conditioned, which must be adhered to in full, and that does include biodiversity enhancements. So the recommendation tonight would be subject to securing contributions towards the new forest mitigation strategy and completion of the habitat regulation assessment, because although that's all been sent off, and actually now Natural England have had their time, we haven't heard anything back from them yet, so it's just to confirm that process. So after that, we would delegate back to the Service Director for Planning and Environment in conjunction with the Chair and Vice Chair to grant planning permission with the conditions in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I've got one person registered to speak, Colin Zacek of Regal Homes. Apologies if I got your surname wrong.
Good evening, Chair and members. I am Colin Zacek of Regal Homes, and I represent our scheme this evening. I would like to mention that we are a small business based in Eastleigh, and we have worked locally for 20 years. A prime example of our work is Stoke Common Road, built last year. This scheme had robust opposition. However, we worked with the Residents Association under intense scrutiny and completed the development with great care. Local residents and new homeowners alike have commended us on the final outcome. We are actually very proud of this. This statement will not be a justification of our scheme on Allington Lane. It fits planning policy, and the principle has been reviewed by the Duty Planning Officer, Rachel Morris. Our task was to delve into the practical workings of the scheme based upon our experience and how we set about enhancing all aspects of the site. We are all aware that Allington Lane is only going to get busier, and whilst we are undoubtedly adding more traffic with one extra unit, we realise the safety of the new build was not the only factor. The issues with the existing bungalows had to be resolved. The current arrangement means cars from both properties reverse awkwardly some 35 metres and egress blindly onto this road. We felt compelled to change this. The key was improving the overall safety, particularly with the proposed new junction. So we redesigned the whole site so that all 3 properties have ample parking, can turn easily and leave in forward gear, with a much wider access point and clear visibility. The CGI that we provided, I think, shows that. Another concern was whether the use of this land should or could provide an affordable new bungalow in the heart of Fair Oak without compromising the existing bungalows or local residents. The existing rear gardens are notably larger than most of the surrounding properties, so we set about creating a plan where all 3 bungalows will have amenity, not just with minimum requirements, but real usable space. A clear feature of this particular area is also large outbuildings, which we obviously looking to demolish. Notably, the Southern Water Pump House adjacent and number 408 Fair Oak Road directly behind has an outbuilding of mass and scale similar to our bungalow, therefore it feels like it's in context. Also, we felt it was important to address the neighbours' comments. For transparency, we have no intention whatsoever of utilising the roof space of the new bungalow. We welcome the restriction. We did indeed remove the conifer trees, which was mentioned in the comments. We did not require permission to do so, but only removed them after our ecologist surveyed the site, and we provided mitigation of some 48 metres of native planting. To summarise, we have not tried to embellish this site with basic improvements. Our objective was to transform the street scene and replace numerous large old sheds with a new home featuring renewable energy, a full biodiversity plan incorporating swift boxes, bee and bat bricks along with native landscaping, and also remove all the tarmac and replace with permanent driveways for the whole site. All of these improvements as a matter of principle. Therefore, with much consideration, I hope we have qualified any areas that may be of question, and we ask for your support this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I have anybody else who'd like to speak on this application? Okay, in that case, I will open it up to councillors for questions. Councillor Broomfield.
It's just a fairly quick one for Rachel. I think I know the answer anyway, but I will just clarify. The applicant mentioned that neighbours were concerned about developing into the roof space. Presumably, if that were proposed, that would have to come for separate planning consent at some future date. So we would have the opportunity to discuss it then.
Yeah, so removing the PD rights means that they would have to come in for a householder application. It would also remove the Class AA, which would normally be a prior notification process, but it means that they couldn't do that either. They'd have to go in for a full application.
Councillor Marsh.
Sorry, microphone's having a moment. Just on the same condition, is there anything that can be done to put a condition so that that roof space can never, ever be built in? Or is it always open to, it could come back later?
Yeah, we wouldn't look to just completely restrict it. By doing the restrictions from PD rights, it would mean that it would have to come in and we'd have to assess it and then judge it at that time based on planning policy and relevant considerations.
Councillor Kaws.
I have a question more for curiosity about the context of it. Is it, I mean, I see that the applicant is Regal Homes. Is it that Regal Homes have purchased the 2 bungalows and you're looking to add one, or are the owners still living there from the 2 bungalows? No. They're both empty. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, in that case, would somebody like to propose? Councillor Broomfield, somebody like to second? Councillor Kaws. Right, and let's move on to debate. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you. This has been a really interesting development, and I'm going to be very open and honest to say it filled me with horror at first. I actually know the site very well because I looked at buying number 7, and when I went to look at it, we thought, what an amazing plot, what a wonderful opportunity, but what a ridiculous driveway. Now, I don't like backyard developments because it does feel like we're being overloaded with backyard developments, and I would hate to see that as something that becomes common in Fair Oak, because we just feel like you can't move for new developments everywhere. And what really worried me about this development was the road and the position to the junction with Fair Oak Road, particularly as there was lots of talk with Horton Heath of that being a major 2-lane junction with traffic lights there and how that would impact. So my initial thought was absolute horror. How is this even possible? I want to say how impressed I am, though, by what you've done with the site. I think like you did on the other site that we looked at, where you worked with residents. And I think that does speak for itself, because I remember that development very well. I haven't seen or heard any fallout from it since then. But what really struck me about this presentation is everything that filled me with horror about that house and that development you've addressed, because I can remember driving up to the property and thinking there's no way on this planet I would like this to be my driveway, because the driveway was too narrow to actually fit your car just on one driveway. You had to impose on the other driveway to get up safely. But by having the parking access in the front and by ensuring that there's space so that people can be coming forward I think it's very, very clever the way it's been done, and I think I'm incredibly impressed with how the development has been done, because it immediately took out most of my concerns for the development. I would say that I do feel strongly, and sorry, ModGov has kicked me out again, so I've only got my briefest of notes rather than the full thing. But I did want to comment about page 40, paragraph 40, which was the condition to prevent enlargement. I think that's an essential. And I would hope that that never comes forward again. Oh, thank you. Because of the neighbours' concern in the roof, it worries me that in the future we won't be able to say overlooking and taking their views, or privacy could be reason to take that. But I think it's very important that we have as ironclad a condition as possible to protect no going up into the roof. That property should stay as a bungalow, not least of all because of the number of parking spaces available. And also on page 45, condition number 65, the condition to ensure consideration. And certainly I know the company has a reputation for being considerate, so I would ask that that is absolutely honoured at all times, to be considerate to neighbours and residents. And it will be a tricky build because of the location and accessing the property, but consideration wherever possible. But yeah, those were my observations.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. Councillor Kaws.
I think it might actually be another question instead of debate, but I really like. I agree with Councillor Marsh that I agree with what you're saying. It sounds great. You're saying all the right things about planting native trees and swift bricks and bat boxes, and I just wonder what kind of monitoring and control there is over that. Like, if we go back to the development in a couple of years' time, will we see the swift bricks, and will we be able to see the bat boxes? And is there some kind of monitoring of this post development?
There wouldn't be active monitoring, but it is there in a condition that we would expect that to be. The report details the enhancements, and we expect that to be adhered to in full, including those recommendations for enhancement. So if it was ever raised as an issue that we think that that's not there, then we could enforce against that condition, but it's not something that we can actively monitor.
Councillor Broomfield.
Thank you. When I first asked for this to be referred to committee, like Councillor Marsh, I was quite concerned about what we were going to get there. It's a busy junction, it's a busy road, and there's lots about to happen. Having said that, having read the report and seen the photographs of what it should look like when it's finished, I have to say, actually, it's a hell of an improvement, because those two bungalows are really grotty at the moment. I walk past quite often with my dogs. We took a stroll up there on Sunday afternoon and had a look around the back gardens, and they're incredibly run down. The whole thing they just look shabby and shoddy and old. So I think, in actual fact, with this development and the new frontage, I hate to say it, I don't like back garden developments either, but as back garden developments go, this is probably about as good as they get. So I think, sort of slightly reluctantly, but actually I'm fairly happy to support this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Broomfield. Councillor Couldrey.
Thank you. I'm happy to support it. I've seen a number of developments by this company which seem to have been done very well. But it's not just that. I do want to point out that we can't say we will never build inside the urban area and then say we don't want to build on green fields. We have to be realistic about this. Appropriate infill development is a very good thing. This is an entirely appropriate infill development, and I will be voting for it with enthusiasm.
Thank you, Councillor Couldrey. If I can add as well my own thoughts on it. I didn't realise that I might need to declare another interest in this meeting, that I am a resident of Stoke Common Road, and have been for a number of years. But in terms of this development, my only concern is the loss of the front gardens in Allington Lane. I understand that everybody wants to convert their front garden to allow additional parking. That's just the way of the world. I'm concerned generally about loss of front gardens across the country. What it tends to mean is that there's a reduction in the amount of plants. It also can contribute towards issues with drainage. I just want to try and confirm that the changes to the frontage of the two existing bungalows will be porous in some way, and that drainage overall for the site has been considered, given that I know it's not a massive site, but you are looking at reducing the amount of soil, whether in a garden or whether the back garden site where the bungalow will be, new bungalow will be, or the front garden sites with hard standing. And I just really want some reassurance, I probably should put this in the question section, that drainage has been properly considered. It would also be nice to see plants somehow managing to make it back into those front gardens, which can be done alongside parking if it's done cleverly, but that's just a personal preference. But my proper question is, has drainage been considered?
Yeah, so the area that the drives are proposed on is a permeable paving. Condition 4 does require prior to commencement details about surface water disposal, and also condition 11 does require a landscaping scheme as well. So we would expect to see landscaping throughout the entire red line. The two dwellings at the front are included in the red line, so we would expect that.
Thank you. Councillor Marsh.
Well, I share your concern about the loss of front gardens. I don't think you can call these front gardens. They're on such a ridiculous slope that I don't think this is a major loss at all. There is a bit of grass there and there's a shrub there on the one side. But I think the gains in the back garden can be made to mitigate what's going to happen in the front. I think that I agree with Steve that actually what will be there, even removing the front gardens, will be an improvement to what's on site at the moment. But I do agree that the landscaping could do some inclusion of greenery around the edge of the parking area in the front to just soften it slightly. Yeah, but...
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. Any more debate? Oh, sorry, Councillor Marsh.
Sorry, me again. Not debate, but actually I want to commend the developers, because we've worked with, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I'm saying it anyhow, we work with a lot of developers who don't give consideration. So it's quite refreshing to see developers who think carefully, who are sympathetic, who consider the ecology, the environment, the local residents. And I think it's for that reason that I'm quite keen to support this one, which I didn't think I was going to be thinking about where the property was, but after what I've seen and heard today, I'm very impressed. So.
Thank you, Michelle. Any more debate? In that case, should we move it to the vote? All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Planning appeals. So we're just noting the planning appeals. Great. In that case, we conclude the meeting. Thank you very much indeed for taking part in the meeting, everybody. Thank you very much to the members of the public who are here, and a big thank you to all the officers who made this meeting tonight possible. Our next meeting will take place on the 31st of January 2024, 6:30 p.m. here. I look forward to seeing you then.